Dienach feels like he's hit by lightning. That night, Paul Dienach feels his eyes getting heavy, and he wonders if he'll finally be able to sleep at night from now on.
In a narrative that pushes the limits of time and space, a man has recently emerged, asserting to have journeyed to the year 3906. He describes a society that challenges conventional understanding, with advancements in technology, societal structures, and the very fabric of existence. What does the world of 3906 hold? What secrets lie ahead? Join us as we delve into the revelations of this time traveler and explore the astonishing future he claims to have witnessed. Man slips into coma, awakens in the year 3906. In 1924, Paul Amadeus Dienach, a Swiss teaching the German language in Greece, was having issues with tuberculosis and held within himself a strong desire to return to his homeland in Switzerland. In light of his deteriorating health, he entrusted his extensive handwritten notes, comprising hundreds of pages, to his favorite student, Georgios Papachatzis. Dienach intended for the notes to help his students in his pursuit of mastery of the German language. Both men bid each other farewell, not knowing that it would be their last time seeing each other. As Papachatzis commenced the translation process, what he encountered in the pages of the notes was not something that would have crossed his mind in a million years. The pages revealed comprehensive passages detailing a prophesied nuclear conflict, the prospect of colonizing man, and the establishment of a global government, and also provided insights into flying vehicles, holographic technology, and contact with extraterrestrial life. Initially, Papachatzis dismissed the entire work as a work of fiction, just as anyone else would. But as the text began to unfold, what he believed to be science fiction turned out to be Dienach's diary, and within its pages detailed a remarkable experience. In the year 1921, Dienach fell into a coma, and according to the diary, he subsequently woke up in the year 3906. It became apparent that Dienach had undergone a peculiar time slip, spending an entire year in the very distant future. Capturing every detail he could, Dienach's writing presented a chronicle of his extraordinary journey through time. How did this happen? How could a man without the use of cutting-edge, groundbreaking technology manage to travel eons into the future? Transitioning to another era. In May of 1921, in one of Paul Dienach's instructional sessions, he began to experience bouts of dizziness. It is noteworthy that Dienach had a history of health challenges, and this particular instance led to him being hospitalized. Eventually, he would succumb to the fever, causing intermittent lapses into unconsciousness. Whilst he was having these episodes, he would perceive the presence of various individuals around him, yet he was not able to communicate effectively due to his weakened state. When he would wake up in unfamiliar surroundings, surrounded by people wearing similar attires, but they conversed in a language that was foreign to him. He could make out some sentences in English and Swedish. Attempted communication with these people failed as they could not understand his language. Eventually, after much effort on his part, a doctor identified his language and attempted to discuss it with him as a fragmented form of the German language. The doctor introduced Dienach as Andreas Nordheim, a well-known physics professor who had been encountered in distress. Dienach was presented with a mirror, revealing a reflection that was foreign to him. This revelation elicited visible distress in him, prompting him to tears. He believed that he was either dead or battling with some terrible mental illness. In a bid to assert that he was still sane, he quickly told them that he was a modest language teacher from Switzerland. At the mention of Switzerland, a silent reaction passed through all the medical staff. This prompted them to inquire of him what year he thought it was, to which he confidently responded, 1922. A deafening silence fell upon the entire room, and an older physician stepped forward, revealing that the actual year was 3906. Dienach, skeptical about the news he had just received, looked out the window to witness a surreal landscape with towering buildings, reaching the sky, and flying vehicles. Overcome by what he had just seen, he succumbed to the cold hands of unconsciousness once again. After 3 days of constant observation, he finally began to show signs of recovery. Gaining enough strength, he describes in detail his surroundings, recounting walls crafted of crystals and objects made from colored, glowing metal. He was then guided through a corridor into a spacious room where he encountered two venerable figures adorned in white. He initially thought them to be priests or kings, but he was told that they were electors with an eye embodying the role of significant leaders. Up until this point, the medical professionals had attributed his condition to potential brain trauma and completely dismissed the notion of him hailing from a bygone era. However, upon thorough questioning by the enlightened electors, they came to believe Dienach's story. The electors possessed knowledge of a rare psychic phenomenon called the consciousness shift, wherein an individual's mind or soul could undergo transference into another person's body. The electors believed that Andreas Northam suffered an accident and was dead for 15 minutes, and that it was during this time that Dienach's soul transferred into Andreas's body. How would Dienach survive in the future without any prior knowledge of how they lived their life? And what would happen to the owner of the original body which he inhabited? Dienach takes on the identity of Andreas. The electors summoned a man named Stefan, who was privy to the true identity of Andreas. He is tasked with the job of helping Northam regain his memories and reverse the consciousness shift. In order not to cause panic in public, the plan is to have Dienach assume Northam's life, while Stefan imparts knowledge of modern society to him. Stefan agrees to visit Dienach every day to teach him more about modern contemporary society, but Dienach, who had spent 2 weeks in the future, is more fascinated by the past. In the past, Dienach suffered from insilius lethargica, a sleeping sickness. People with this condition usually experience difficulty speaking, moving, and even staying awake. What shocked him the most was that in the future, people will not sleep. Despite spending hours learning about the new system of society and pouring hours of himself into learning the new language, he never felt tired, nor did he feel the need to sleep. He utilized a modern learning device called the Oregon Schwager. He described it as a handheld device with moving three-dimensional images, accompanied by sound music and narration. Encouraged by his doctors to learn everything about the past in the build-up till 3906, he was, however, restricted from learning about the 20th century to provide potential alterations to historical events. Dienach learns that the years spanning from 2000 to 2300 present significant challenges to humanity. Overpopulation and regional conflicts emerge as the forerunners of issues plaguing humanity, and by the year 2204, man will have conquered Mars. The entire population on the planet Mars grows to over 20 million. But in the year 2265, a planet-wide catastrophe, possibly a large impact event, occurs, wiping out the entire Mars colony. Subsequent attempts at colonization are abandoned. In 2309, a medium-scale nuclear war devastates most of Europe, leaving only Scandinavian and Baltic countries relatively unscathed. This likely explained the English-Scandinavian hybrid language spoken in the region. The war is a global one and lasts for 80 years, leading to the decimation of a significant number of the human population. This marked the end of ancient history, and thus the New World began afresh. One world government was formed to stop the war, but then the world government was marred by corruption. Countries with strong nationalists resisted, and after 200 years, the one world government came to an end. Elections were scrapped as the populace had lost faith in it, and now scientists and philosophers held the top offices. This brought about a shift towards a more rational and humane world government. In 2893, a world leader named Torahilde proposed an economic system marking the beginning of societal transformation over the next 300 years. Unlike the current system that is built on global scarcity, Hilde's system is built on global adequacy. This pivotal change led people to start to work for the greater good. Papa Chatzis, reading everything that his teacher had penned down, was eager to publish the work, but did not imagine the amount of backlash and pushback he would receive. What happened to Dienach's Chronicles of the Future? George Papahatsis gradually translated Dienach's notes, with his not-so-perfect German, over 14 years between 1926 and 1940, mostly in his spare time and summer breaks. World War II and the Greek Civil War delayed his efforts to spread the amazing story that landed on his desk all those years ago. On the eve of Christmas in 1944, Papahatsis was staying with friends at a house that was also occupied by the Greek army. When the soldiers caught sight of Dienach's notes, which were of course in German, they confiscated them because they considered them suspicious. They told Papahatsis that they would return them only after they had examined their contents. They never did. But by then, Papahatsis had already finished the translation. George Papahatsis tried to track down information about Dienach by visiting Zurich 12 times between 1952 and 1966. He could not find a single trace of him, nor any relatives, neighbors, or friends. Dienach, who is thought to have fought with the Germans during World War I, probably never gave his real name in Greece, a country that had fought against the Germans. After the end of World War II and the Greek Civil War, Papahatsis gave the translated diary to some of his friends, Masons, Theosophists, professors of theology, and 2 anti-Nazi Germans. Once everybody realized what they had in their hands, the diary was kept within a close philosophical circle and in the Tectonic Lodge, in which he was a member. The book was taken very seriously by the Masons, who did not want the information spread to a larger circle. They considered the book to be almost holy, containing wisdom about the future of humanity, and better kept only for the few. Finally, after strong disputes, George Papahatsis decided to publish Dienach's diary. It was during the period that Greece entered the hardest phase of its 7-year dictatorship in 1972. Strong protest from certain church circles, who considered the book heretic, and the fall of the dictatorship a year later condemned the first edition to oblivion. No one was interested in the future when the present was so intense and violent. All these factors, along with the difficult language and the rough style of Dienach's notes, which mixed elements of his past with his experience of the future, made the diary even more difficult to understand. Only a few had the time, patience, and knowledge to decode the secret knowledge that lay encoded within almost 1,000 pages. Another edition followed in 1979 in Greece. However, again, the book disappeared, and it was hardly mentioned again, apart from the few that knew of its existence. After all the silence, Papahatsis died, and his family did not wish to carry on with his work. 22 years passed before the diary was picked up again by Rhadamanthus Anastasakis, a high-ranking member of the Masonic Lodge in Greece, who decided to publish the book on a small scale, exactly as it was previously written. Aside from Paul Dienach, there are lots of other people who claim to have also time-traveled, just like Moberly and Jourdan. A journey back in time. Moberly and Jourdan recounted that they had decided to visit the Palace of Versailles as part of several trips around Paris, detailing how, on 10th of August 1901, they traveled by train to Versailles. They remembered not thinking much of the palace after touring it, so they said they decided to walk through the gardens to the Petit Trianon. Upon reaching the Grand Trianon, they found it was closed to the public. They recollected traveling with a Baedeker guidebook, but said they became lost after missing the turn for the main avenue, Allée des Deux Trianons, and entered a lane where they bypassed their destination. Moberly reported that she noticed a woman shaking a white cloth out of a window, while Jourdan recalled noticing an old deserted farmhouse, outside of which was an old plow. At this point, they described a feeling of oppression and dreariness coming over them, after which men who they thought looked like palace gardeners told them to go straight on. Moberly described the men as very dignified officials, dressed in long grayish-green coats with small three-cornered hats. Jourdan recalled that she noticed a cottage with a woman holding out a jug to a girl in the doorway, describing it as a tableau vivant, a living picture, much like Madame Tussauds waxworks. Moberly did not observe the cottage but remembered that she felt the atmosphere change. She wrote that everything suddenly looked unnatural, therefore unpleasant. Even the trees seemed to become flat and lifeless, like wood worked in a tapestry. There were no effects of light and shade, and no wind stirred the trees. They reported reaching the edge of a wood, close to the Temple de l'Amour, and coming across a man seated beside a garden kiosk, wearing a cloak and a large shady hat. According to Moberly, his appearance was most repulsive, and his expression was odious. His complexion was dark and rough. Jourdan noted that the man slowly turned his face, which was marked by smallpox. His complexion was very dark. The expression was evil and yet unseeing, and though they did not feel that he was looking particularly at them, they felt a restraint to go past him. They said that another man, whom they described as tall, with large dark eyes, and crisp, curling black hair under a large sombrero hat, came up to them and showed them the way to the Petit Trianon. Moberly said she noticed a lady sketching on the grass who looked at them after they crossed a bridge to reach the gardens in front of the palace. She later described the lady as wearing a light summer dress and a shady white hat with much fair hair. Moberly reported that she thought she was a tourist at first, but the dress appeared to be old-fashioned. Moberly came to believe that the lady was Marie Antoinette. Jourdain, however, did not see the lady. Upon their return to the palace, they reported that they were directed around to the entrance and joined a party of other visitors. They said that after they toured the house, they had tea at the Hôtel des Reservoirs before returning to Jourdain's apartment. According to Jourdain and Moberly, neither woman mentioned the incident to the other until a week after leaving Versailles, when Moberly, in a letter to her sister about their trip, started writing about the afternoon of the Versailles incident. She reportedly asked Jourdain if she thought the Petit Trianon was haunted, and Jourdain told her that she thought it was. 3 months later in Oxford, the pair said they compared their notes and decided to write separate accounts of what happened, while also researching the history of the Trianon. They thought they might have seen events that took place on 10th August 1792, only 6 weeks before the abolition of the French monarchy, when the Tuileries Palace in Paris was besieged and the king's Swiss guards were massacred. According to their narrative, they visited the Trianon Gardens again on several occasions, but were unable to trace the path they took. Various landmarks, such as the kiosk and the bridge, were missing, and the grounds were full of people. Trying to come up with an explanation, they wondered if they had stumbled across a private party or an event booked that day. However, they found that nothing had been booked that afternoon. Through their research, they thought they recognized the man they reportedly saw by the kiosk as the Comte de Vaudreuil, a friend of Marie Antoinette, whom Moberly had claimed to see. Convinced that the grounds were haunted, they decided to publish their story in a book and adventure under the pseudonyms of Elizabeth Morrison and Frances Lamont. The book, containing the claim that Marie Antoinette had been encountered in 1901, caused a sensation. However, many critics did not take it seriously on the grounds of the implausibilities and inconsistencies that it contained. A review of the book by Eleanor Mildred Sidgwick in the Proceedings of the Society for Psychical Research suggested that the women had misinterpreted normal events that they had experienced. In 1903, an old map of the Trianon Gardens was found and showed a bridge that the two women had claimed to have crossed that had not been on any other map. The identity of the authors of an adventure was not made public until 1931. Both women claimed many paranormal experiences before and after their adventure. In one of them, Moberly claimed to have seen in the Louvre in 1914 an apparition of the Roman Emperor Constantine, a man of unusual height wearing a gold crown and a toga. He was not observed by anybody else. During the First World War, Jourdain, the dominant personality of the pair who had succeeded as principal of St. Hugh's, became convinced that a German spy was hiding in the college. After developing increasingly autocratic behavior, she passed on suddenly in 1924 in the middle of an academic scandal over her leadership of the college, her conduct having provoked mass resignations of academic staff. Moberly also left the world in 1937. Unlike Dienach's visit to a far futuristic world, this time the time travelers claim to have visited the past. Hopefully, the next traveler can give us a bit of a glimpse into the future. American Soldier Voyaging Through Time. John Titor and Time Travel Zero are pseudonyms used on internet forums between 2000 and 2001 by an individual claiming to be an American military time traveler from the year 2036. Their posts discussed various aspects of time travel and described future calamitous events, including a global nuclear war. The uniform inaccuracy of their predictions and inconsistencies in their explanations has led many to view the story with skepticism. A 2009 investigation suggested that the entire affair was a hoax created by Larry Haber, a Florida entertainment lawyer, and his brother John Rick Haber, a computer scientist. These claims have never been verified. The first post using John Titor's military symbol appeared on the Time Travel Institute forums on November 2, 2000, under the username TimeTravel01. The name John Titor was not used at that time. The post discussed time travel in general, The first one being the 6-part description of the components required for a working time machine, and responses to questions from other posters about how such a machine might work. These early posts tended to be short. A second thread was also made due to shortcomings of the forum software used at the time. The name John Titor was first introduced in January 2001, when Time Travel Zero began posting at the Art Bell Post-to-Post BBS forums, which required a name or pseudonym for every account. The final Titor post was made in late March 2001. Later, around 2003, various websites compiled Titor's posts, rearranging them into narratives. Not all of these sites refer to the original dates that the messages were posted on the forums. In his online postings, Titor claimed to be an American soldier from the year 2036, based in Tampa, Florida. He said that he was assigned to a governmental time travel project, and that as part of the project, he was sent back to 1975 to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer, which was needed to debug various legacy computer programs that existed in 2036, a possible reference to the Unix year 2038 problem. The IBM 5100 runs the APL and basic programming languages. Titor said that he had been selected for this mission because his paternal grandfather was directly involved in the original assembly and programming of the 5100. He attempted to provide proof of this by describing unpublicized features of the 5100, which led some people to believe that a computer scientist must have been behind the postings. Titor said that he was on a stopover in the year 2000 for personal reasons, to collect pictures lost in the future Civil War, and to visit his family, of whom he spoke often. Titor also said that for several months he had been trying to warn anyone who would listen about the potential threat of Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease spread through beef products, and about the possibility of an upcoming civil war within the United States. When questioned about the topic, Titor also expressed interest in mysteries such as UFOs, which he said remained unexplained in his time. Titor suggested that UFOs and extraterrestrials might be time travelers with superior time machines from much further into the future than his own time. According to the posts, the device was installed in the rear of a 1966 Chevrolet Corvette convertible. Later posts mentioned a 1987 truck with four-wheel drive. Although he frequently invoked the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, whereby events from his timeline may differ from our own, Titor also said that the differences would be minimal. As such, some have interpreted his descriptions of his timeline as predictions and have compared them with actual historical events that have occurred since Titor's final post in 2001. The most immediate of Titor's predictions foretold a civil war in the United States having to do with order and rights. The war, as Titor described it, would begin in 2005 with civil unrest surrounding the presidential election of the previous year. According to Titor, this civil conflict, which he described as having a Waco-type event every month that steadily gets worse, would be pretty much at everyone's doorstep and erupt into war by 2008. As a result, the United States would split into 5 regions based on a variety of factors, including differing military objectives. According to Titor, this civil war would end in 2015 with a brief but intense World War III, which Titor referred to as End Day. He specified Washington, D.C. and Jacksonville, Florida, as cities that would be hit in the exchange, and said that after the war, Omaha, Nebraska would be the new U.S. capital. Titor did not detail the exact causes of this World War III scenario, but in one post he said that the hostilities were led by border clashes and overpopulation. He also pointed to the contemporary Arab-Israeli conflict not as a cause of the war, but as a milestone that precedes it. Titor said that in 2011, when he was 13 years old, he joined a Florida-based shotgun infantry unit called the Fighting Diamondbacks for at least 4 years. In other posts, he described himself as hiding from the war. Titor also said that the Everett-Weir model of quantum physics, better known as the many worlds interpretation, was correct. According to him, this meant that his time travel had caused the formation of a new time stream, and that in this new time stream, the events that Titor had described would occur somewhat differently than they had in his home time stream. This made his predictions non-falsifiable. The New Republic described Titor as the most famous of several internet forum posters who claimed to be time travelers. In Italian television program Voyager, ai confini della conoscenza, aired the results of an investigation of John Titor on May 19, 2008. Private investigator Mike Lynch found no registry evidence, past or present, of any individual named John Titor. He did, however, identify the John Titor Foundation, which was a for-profit company formed on September 16, 2003, and had no office or address other than a rented postbox in Kissimmee, Florida. An IP address connected with Titor is also geolocated to Kissimmee. In 2009, a report by John Houston of the Hoax Hunter website pointed to Larry Haber, a Florida entertainment lawyer, as the CEO of the foundation. Lynch concluded that Larry Haber and his brother Richard, a computer scientist, were very likely the men behind John Titor, whom they introduced in 1998, accompanied by different predictions, including chaos due to the Y2K bug. John Houston also reported that John Titor is a trademark registered with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. The Titor trademark is now classified as abandoned. Also, many of Titor's claims, especially about the wars, did not come to pass. It's easier to believe that he was just hiding behind the safety of a computer screen to create suspense and followers for his account, seeing that his predictions failed woefully. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel and check out other interesting videos you might like.